Today's topic: why the divide and conquer strategy is in fact a myth. Okay? I am your host. Now, have you ever wondered why you often can't trust your coworkers? Why is it so common to hear things like, your coworkers are not your friends? This is not to say people never build strong bonds and become great friends at work. This happens all the time, and some people even meet their significant others at work. Okay? And you see a similar dynamic among the population. When you look at politics, you cannot trust the other side. You cannot trust liberals. You cannot trust conservatives. Things of that nature. You cannot trust certain racial groups. You cannot trust certain genders. You cannot trust people of a certain age. The division is everywhere you look. But nevertheless, there's still a large amount of caution that needs to be taken. Okay? Now, have you ever wondered why companies don't allow their coworkers to share their salaries with each other? Okay? One might assume this is part of the divide and conquer strategy. If everyone is paid fairly and properly for the work that they do, why are salaries such a big secret? One might wonder, one might ask. The reason is obvious. Companies don't always pay people their true worth. Sometimes they pay people more than their true worth, and sometimes less. And many people will say, these companies, these corporations are so evil, they're trying to take advantage of the people. But we must dig a little bit deeper than that. Okay? Now, this is not always some diabolical plan to exploit coworkers. Sometimes it is due to economic forces and conditions in the market. Okay? Per example, supply and demand in the job market. When there is a high supply of jobs and a low supply of candidates, job seekers have the upper hand in this particular situation. Okay? Thus, they can often land jobs they are not fully qualified for, and they can often negotiate much higher salaries than they might deserve. Okay? Likewise, when things are reversed, when there is a high supply of candidates and a low supply of jobs, the opposite occurs. Highly qualified job seekers often have to settle for lower pay and jobs they are not qualified for, but overqualified for. Jobs they are overqualified for, okay? Again, nevertheless, in order for any hierarchical organization to function properly, it must utilize the divide and conquer strategy in theory, okay? This is the only way for the few people at the top to control the many people at the bottom, okay? Right? Because you would assume in any pyramid structure, the people in power are largely outnumbered by those they rule over, those they manage, those they control. So what is to stop the many from taking control of the few? Simple division. As long as the people at the bottom are divided, the people at the top are in power. In theory, this is what people assume, okay? As long as the many are divided among themselves, either competing with each other or fighting each other, they can never come together to challenge the few at the top, okay? This is the essence of the divide and conquer belief, that those at the top keep those at the bottom divided, so that they can maintain the power. And you might be asking, well, that makes perfect sense. How is that a myth? How is the divide and conquer strategy a myth? Well, stay tuned. You're about to find out. Prepare to have your mind blown, okay? Prepare to have your mind blown. Now, per example, again, let's take a corporation made up of 2,000 individual workers, okay? Only one of those 2,000 people is the CEO of the company. And for fun, let's add the direct underlings of the CEO, like the vice president, the COO, Chief Operating Officer, Chief Financial Officer, even the co-founder for kicks. Let's add those individuals up. So we have five individuals ruling over 1,995 people. Okay? Now, if all 1,995 people come together to challenge the five people at the top of the corporation, what would happen? Well, the five people at the top can either risk the life of the corporation itself by firing every single employee that chose to rise up against them and start from scratch to hire more supportive workers in their place, which would take a very, very long time and would more than likely destroy the company. Not a very realistic proposition. The other option would then be to just give in and bend to the will of the 1,995 workers in order to keep the company running. Okay? So why does this situation almost never occur in reality? One would assume it's a divide and conquer strategy. One would assume the people at the top of the corporation are keeping everybody underneath them divided, fighting, competing, so that they never come together against those at the top. Yeah. You are probably expecting me to say it's because the people at the top use the division, the divide and conquer strategy. But you would be wrong, because the divide and conquer strategy is in fact an illusion, and now you are about to find out why the divide and conquer strategy is in fact an illusion. Now, while the strategy can be implemented intentionally to cause further division among various groups of people, it is not in fact a very necessary strategy on its own, because the reason is quite simple. Because the divide and conquer strategy is a myth because unity is a myth, okay? I repeat, the reason the divide and conquer strategy is a myth is because the very concept of unity in a population is a myth, okay? In order to divide something, it must first be united, and there is no such thing as a truly united people. Okay? Going back to this example of this corporation takeover by the 1,995 workers, such a situation would never occur because 1,995 people would never agree on anything as a collective in the first place. Okay? They would never agree. The only way for a large group of people to operate as a team is with a leader. Okay? This is why every sports team has a coach. All groups have leaders. They cannot operate as a collective otherwise. Not convinced? Get a group of 5 people and have them order a pizza, okay? Tell them that the toppings on the pizza must be everyone's first choice. I repeat, everyone. That means nobody is compromising. Everybody gets their first choice on the pizza. See what happens. See if these 5 people can order a pizza and make it everybody's first choice. That right there explains the nature of natural inherent division among the human population. People are naturally divided. They don't need to be divided. They don't need to be divided by the elites. They don't need to be divided by anybody at the top. They will divide naturally among themselves. It is very unlikely that all 5 people will choose the same toppings as their first choice. So, try getting 1,995 people to agree on the same course of action. Ain't gonna happen, okay? Ain't gonna happen, okay? For this reason, the pyramid structure is inevitable for all collective groups. Countries have leaders, teams have leaders, companies have leaders, and groups have leaders. Human beings only work well in groups when somebody takes the lead. Thus, the idea that we would all live in a utopia if the powers that be then constantly divide and conquer the masses is a myth. Okay. Now, at this point, you might be saying, okay, are you taking the side of the people at the top? Are you letting them off a little bit too easy? Are you sure that some level of the divide and conquer strategy is not being used regardless? Well, guess what? Guess what? Don't worry, because the reality is, even though people naturally divide among themselves, yes, the divide and conquer strategy is in fact used effectively to control the masses. Only it is not used simply for the division. The true divide and conquer strategy used by those at the top has a completely different purpose. Okay, it has a completely different purpose than just simple division. The intention of the strategy is to control the division itself rather than to cause the division. Okay, I repeat, the purpose, the true purpose of the divide and conquer strategy used by those at the top is to control the division rather than to cause the division. Okay? Do you understand? Controlling the division rather than causing the division. The purpose is to choose whom is divided against whom, so that you're able to control whom should lead whom. That is the true game. That is what is actually at play with the divide and conquer strategy. Okay? Control the division so you can handpick the leaders. In other words, your vice presidents, your COOs, your CFOs. Handpicking the people who will lead the divided masses. That is the true game. Please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. You will subscribe to this channel. And once again, watch my other videos. I have plenty of other videos on wisdom and a variety of topics. I am sure you will find a topic you find interesting on this channel. Okay? Cheers.